In the next 2 minutes, you're going to experience probably as good a 2 minutes of sport anywhere in the world. It'll be over in 2 minutes. And it's just something about it, the roar, and you could hear that sound coming up. And nowhere else in Australian racing, and probably world racing, do we get that sound, that roar, because people are so close, they can nearly touch them.
The one thing that I remember, when I trotted him back up to the barriers, he got behind the gates and he didn't want to walk. He wanted to jog, jig, jog, jig, jog, jig, jog, and he was eyeballing all the other horses. So it was game on for him. I knew we were ready for something special. We were ready to go.
Let's Elope wasn't the easiest horse to ride, and I had a little bit of a shoulder injury, which compounded the issue. But this was my first ride in the Cox Plate, so I knew the enormity of it and let all that noise around me just disappear and stayed focused and knew I had a big job in front of me.
Actually, I said to Greg Hall on the particular day, I got behind Peter Hudson and he gave me a bit of a bad run. And I should have won an earlier race. And I said to Greg Hall, I said, if I get behind this bloke again, I said, just kick me up the arse, will you?
They stand to attention for the plate. They're off. And superimposed, missed it about a length and a half, and away brilliantly here. Kinjate flying from the outside with Coronation Day.
I knew his race pattern. I knew the way he raced. The gate's open and the roar's huge. He always gets back last, second last or whatever.
We really look to see that no rider contravenes the rules and causes interference, especially in the early stages of the race, because it can be detrimental to a horse's chances.
Naturalism fifth on the inside.
Naturalism was the best horse in the race, I thought, right then, having won on him twice. He's got natural gate speed, and that's an advantage in a Cox Plate going out of the straight the first time, and I thought he'd be in the first 4 or half a dozen, one off the fence. So I wanted to keep an eye on him, and I was in a really nice rhythm going out of the straight the first time and down that bottom side from the mile to the 12.
She's going forward down to the winning post the first time. Muirfield Village out wide, Let's Elope back in the centre.
You know, I remember the race well. I didn't want to be too far back because it was going to be a pressure race at the finish, so I wanted to be somewhere in the mix of things. He was travelling very well, extremely well. That horse, when he raced big, he travelled strong. You know, all those Group 1s I won on him, he was hard on the bit and wanting to go all the way. And I was probably going down that back there. I might have been midfield or a little worse, but not too far off the leader, maybe 5 or 6 lengths. He was travelling very well, extremely well.
It wasn't a very strongly run race. It was a very steadily run race. So there was a bit of, when they steadied the pace, there was a little bit of bumping and barging of it, which just happens when things need to go a little bit faster.
But I recall going past about the 1400 metre mark, they started to jam up a little because everybody had got into their positions, so the tempo of the race slowed down, and there was quite a bit of jostling and jamming up. And I remember there was a horse on my outside that cut in front of me and had half a length on me and cut in front of me, and I actually got checked and got jostled out of it, and then I was pumped out 3 wide. But that was okay because I still had cover.
Getting down to the 1,000 metre side of the track, this is working perfectly for me. As we straighten up around the half mile, I'm sitting in behind Burst, and I pull out 4 wide to go up outside of Burst, and I'm trotting, absolutely trucking into the race. And I'm thinking to myself, we get to the school, and I'm thinking to myself, I reckon I could win the Cox Plate here. It's going really good. It's flying.
And when I knew that Peter Hudson was in front of me, the money person who didn't want to follow, I was actually getting quite desperate. I had a wall horse outside. I was thinking about, you know, holding the 2 positions and getting back to the rail. But looking at it from behind, it looked pretty squeezy. So I thought to myself, now I'm going to have to get to the stage there at the half mile somewhere to be getting out.
Next minute, I'm heading towards the ground. And all that could go through my head was, why? The bloody thing just fell over.
There's a fall in the Cox Plate, and Naturalism's lost the rider. Citizen is out of the race, and so's Palace Rain. Rough Habit has been knocked out of it now. And as the race to the 500 metre mark now, and the leader here is Kinjate. Here comes Let's Elope.
But all of a sudden, it was like a tripwire. Palace Rain of Mick on Naturalism, and I saw Rough Habit running to the back of them. I saw Citizen's Colours.
Naturalism actually propped and nearly tipped me over his head, you know, and then when he propped, and he swerved, then he knuckled over, and then I fell. He was trying to get out of the horse's road. Don't worry. Sometimes they can't. You know, they just crash. But he, from a full gallop, he did prop to try and miss him. And when he did, he flung me up over his head, and then, of course, I probably unbalanced him, and down he went.
After all the carnies, the fall and all that, which doesn't go through a jockey's mind, you know, because you still concentrate, you're focused on winning this Cox Plate. Whatever happens, it doesn't matter. You think of nothing else bar winning it.
Naturalism, Mick Dittman, who was following him, just gets supermaned in the air, and Greg Childs makes the decision, seeing that, press the button and just go on Let's Elope. It was hectic. It was off its head, because at the 400 metre mark there was 3.5 lengths between the remainder of the field.
The tempo of the race was really picking up quickly, and Let's Elope was coming into it really strong. But Let's Elope had this bad tendency of laying in. I was able to switch the stick into my left hand, which was my sore shoulder hand. I had to do it because otherwise I wouldn't have got the response that I needed to win the Cox Plate.
And I noticed Superimpose started to circle the field. Let's Elope also took off, striding up outside the leaders on the home turn to basically join the leaders, who were slight chance. Kinjide, Prince Salieri was moving into the race. Better Loosen Up behind them was looking for a run with Simon Marshall aboard. So the business end of the race on the home turn was really taking shape.
Simon could ride, and he maybe could have come underneath my shoulder and pushed me out. But I held him back in, and so he said to make another decision on Better Loosen Up.
Super joined me again, and we were head and head. And then the inside horses, the 3-year-olds, were all shifting out. As they dropped off inside me, I could see this 4-horse gap just appear with Let's Elope off the fence. And then I pointed his nose in that gap inside, just at the 100 metre mark. And he was flying. I gave him another tickle with the left hand, and we were off. And I thought, here we go. He's going to love this, because he never gets beaten in a photo finish. And he was loving the competition too. 3 strides later, and she shifted in so quick. It was 3 horses within about 5 strides, and just shut me out with that 50 to go. And it's just like a bad dream. It's Cox Plate just disappearing. Superimpose was still winding up.
And so I've only got one job to do, and that is get past Let's Elope. And he knew what I was doing, and I knew what he was doing. I got stronger and stronger with the adrenaline rushing that we're going to get her, we're going to get her, you and I are going to get her, mate. Whatever we do, we're going to get her.
You throw the kitchen sink at it. So close to the winning post, 50 metres to go, I heard this screaming noise, and it was G. Hall and Superimpose coming down the outside, and he blazed me right on the line. We finished second, but there was a lot of commotion going on. I'm pulling up, everybody yelling at me, you know, what was I doing? I was hanging in, causing a lot of interference, and there was to be more to be heard about that.
Now, Kinjite in the middle from Muirfield Village, followed by Superimpose. Let's Elope out wide as race to Kinjite. Slight chance fights back down the outside. Superimpose. Let's Elope in the middle. Prince Salieri getting a run. Better Loosen Up and Superimpose. Let's Elope in front. Superimpose driving. Super. I think Super knows to Let's Elope on the Cox Plate. Third maybe Kinjite the rail. Better Loosen Up behind them. And the rider of Burst has been thrown from the saddle after going over the line. And a fall on the Cox Plate at the 600 metre mark. 3 of them have been put out of the race. Naturalism, Citizen and Palace Rain. And the judge has called for the photo. The judge has called for the photo at a sensational WS Cox Plate to 1992.
Greg Hall standing on Superimpose's neck, waving to the crowd, declared as the winner. I rode in and I could see David Hayes go for Arthur Yono and just threw the reins over his head and just said he just should have won, I'm sorry. And with that, they all turned their backs and walked off.
It was something else. It was something else. You don't know you're doing it at the time. I've seen footage of it and all that, and the adrenaline's rushing so much. So this time I stood up in the irons and I went,